Good morning. I am an addiction counselor, and sometimes when I tell people that, this is the response that I get. Oh. How do you work with those people? Those people. I would like to take this opportunity today to talk to you a little bit about those people, and really what addiction is and what happens in the brain. So first, what is addiction? The American Society of Addiction Medicine defines addiction as a primary chronic disease of brain reward, motivation, memory, and related circuitry. Full stop. It's not a moral failing. It's not a lack of willpower. It is a primary chronic disease, which means it's manageable and it's treatable. But saying that it's a primary chronic disease still doesn't really tell us what it is. Addiction is a disease of the brain's ability to process the benefits and consequences of choices, particularly if they involve the dopamine pleasure-reward system. Addiction is a disease of our behavioral emotional guidance system, and truly, therefore, it is a disease of our survival system. Okay, that really wasn't very clarifying, was it? Let me ask a question. How many of you have a personal or family connection with someone who struggles with an addiction or has struggled with an addiction? Anybody? Okay, I see some hands going up. Now let me ask, how many of you at one point or another, you said to your loved one something like, gosh, I'm really worried about you. I'm concerned you drink too much. I'd like you to get some help, and I love you. Anybody say something like that? Okay, now let me ask you this. Was the response that you got something like this? Thank you. You know what? I am just so gosh darn lucky that you love me so much. You know what? You're right. I need to stop. I drink too much and I use too many drugs. I am so glad you said something. Yeah, I'm going to get some help. I'm going to call a therapist and I'm going to get some help. And I love you. Can we hug? Is that what they said to you? No, that is not what they said to you. And it was painful and confusing and scary because the addicted brain functions differently. So I'm going to share with you a little bit of neuroscience this morning. I know, neuroscience on a Saturday morning. It'll be painless, I promise. And I hope that we all have a better understanding of what addiction is and what it is not. So first, as fascinating and complicated as the human brain is, it really just has one job: keep you alive. That's it. That's the brain's job. Now, in order to do that, it follows two very basic principles. First principle, pain is bad. Second principle, pleasure is good. That's it. Pretty much everything we do revolves around avoiding pain and seeking pleasure. And it's important to note that when I say seeking pleasure, I'm not just saying joy and rapture. Pleasure is usually comfort, contentment, calm. Sometimes pleasure simply means I don't feel bad. So in order to help us avoid pain and seek pleasure, the brain uses a very powerful neurotransmitter called dopamine. Now, most of you have probably heard of dopamine. And we tend to think of dopamine as that neurotransmitter that makes us feel good. And that's true. Dopamine does make you feel good, particularly when it comes to things directly related to survival, namely food and sex, okay? Dopamine is the brain's way of saying, ooh, that's good for survival. I'm going to make sure that feels good so you do it again. But dopamine also stimulates other neurotransmitters that help us with that calm, content place, which is really where our brain prefers to be. And dopamine also is anticipatory and motivating. Dopamine is what says, ooh, we're going to go out to dinner tonight and have cheeseburgers. I can't wait. Dopamine is what says, this is going to be good, so I'm going to make sure that you're motivated to do it. It is the high before the high. Dopamine truly is the carrot and the stick. So why does that matter when it comes to addiction? Every single drug of abuse, cocaine, methamphetamine, alcohol, marijuana, nicotine, sugar, everything that we can abuse impacts and interacts with that dopamine pleasure reward survival system. And if you have the right genetic propensity and the right environmental stressors, addiction can set in. And addiction effectively hijacks that dopamine system and tells the brain that you need the drink, the drug, the binge, the purge, the whatever it is, you need that more than anything else related to comfort and survival. Okay, now I want to point out two other areas of the brain that are really important for survival: the anterior cingulate and the orbital frontal cortex. So the anterior cingulate is an area of the brain that is lit up when you are engaged in an empathy task. Okay, what's an empathy task? An empathy task is anytime you feel the emotional connection with the world around you. You feel someone's joy, you feel their pain. And the anterior cingulate would also tell you if you did something to cause that pain. So if I stood up here on stage in front of all of you and started picking my nose, my anterior cingulate would start to give me a really weird feeling. It would start to go, what is happening? Everyone is looking at me really weird. Things were going really well, but now everyone just looks disgusted. What is happening? Oh, I'm picking my nose. And then it communicates to my orbital frontal cortex and helps me change that behavior. And then that system remembers it. It remembers how uncomfortable it was and helps me not do it again. So the next time I'm asked to give a presentation and I'm on stage, which, let's be real, if I start picking my nose in front of all of you, is probably not going to happen, but right? This brain system remembers that was uncomfortable and painful. We didn't like it. Don't do that again. Now, how is that connected to survival? As animals, humans, we're pretty pathetic. I mean, don't have sharp claws, don't have sharp teeth, don't have fangs, don't shoot venom, don't have hard bony plates or spikes or quills. We're not particularly fast and we are not particularly strong. How do we survive? By bonding and connecting with our group, our family, our tribe. We are wired for connection. Human infants and children know that if they don't bond and attach to an adult caregiver, they will die. So we are wired to bond and connect. And the anterior cingulate and orbital frontal cortex help me engage in behaviors that are good for my community, my group, my family, and therefore help me survive. And it helps me avoid behaviors that might get me voted off the island. Okay, so what does all this really look like? Let me ask you guys a question. How many of you are morning people? The alarm goes off and you bounce out of bed, roses, puppies, sunshine, kittens. You can't wait to greet the day. How many of you? Okay, you all are sick freaks and you need therapy. Lots and lots of therapy. Okay, I'm actually kind of a morning person in that once I get up, let's go. Let's do all the things. Let's take on the day. But I will tell you, there are mornings I wake up and I think, ugh, I don't want to get up. My bed is warm and cozy. Pleasure is good. But because all of my brain works relatively well, this is what happens. My brain says, I don't want to get up. I don't have to get up. You know what? I have lots of vacation days. I could totally call in sick today. Yep, there's a global pandemic happening. Everybody's calling in sick. I could totally call in. Oh, wait a minute, wait. Oh, no, I have 4 patients I'm supposed to see today, and 2 of them are really struggling. They need to see me, yeah. And there's that leadership group meeting this afternoon, and I have stuff to contribute to that. Yeah, I need to be there for that. And you know what? Knowing me, I'll lay in bed for like 20 minutes, and then I'll start cleaning the toilets or doing laundry. And my husband and kids are home all day today. I have to stay home all day with them. I'm going to go to work, right? Relatively quickly, my brain says the short-term benefit, pleasure is good, of staying in bed does not outweigh the long-term consequence of doing so. And my brain also knows if I get up and go to work, at the end of the day, I'm going to feel good about that. I'm going to feel like I contributed, I was productive, and that's going to feel good. And if I consistently get up and go to work, I'm going to get paid, which means I have money for food and shelter, and that is survival. So this system works really well in a healthy brain. But in an addicted brain, this entire system is unraveled. So what do we do? Well, I actually have hope. And I have hope because of something that happened about 2 years ago. I'm not sure if any of you remember it. It was really never in the news and was just a blip on the radar. It was called COVID-19. Does anybody remember this? Oh, a few of you remember? Excellent, okay. So when COVID-19 happened, as a society, we said, holy smokes, we gotta do something. So we did, right? We implemented social distancing and let me be very clear, it's not social distancing, it's physical distancing. Please, keep your social connections, we need them. It's physical distancing. So we implemented physical distancing, we shut down our schools, we shut down our businesses, we wear our masks, we invented a vaccine, for crying out loud. Because as a society, we said, this matters. Why won't we do the same for addiction? I promise you, addiction is a much bigger bugger than COVID-19 will ever be. And the reality is we already know what to do. Integrated treatment works, but we've got to get people into treatment sooner because the longer they wait for treatment, the harder it is to get better. Like a lot of other chronic illnesses, the longer you go without getting the right dose of treatment, the sicker you get and the harder it is to get better. And then we've got to be able to keep people in treatment long enough to let the brain heal. The brain will heal, but right now it's hard to keep people in treatment long enough to let that happen. So they get out of treatment, they struggle, they relapse, and what do we say? What's wrong with you? You went to treatment. But they didn't get the right dose of treatment. So my ask of all of you, please, take this information I've shared with you, take it out into the community, talk to your friends, your family, your coworkers, your politicians, your policymakers, and let's do this differently. And we've got to remember, these are not those people. These are our people. Thank you for your time.